Hello, folks. Now, today is the end of an era, but the kickoff to a new beginning. Because this episode of SmackDown is the final one to air since I think late July of 2016 when they started airing on USA to now September 24th, 2018. It's in the record book. It happened. This is like the worst era of SmackDown I've ever watched in my life. Hands down, SmackDown Live was implementing some different stuff. They tried to implement a different couple camera angles that they might like just add on to Fox so they can try to give like a different feel to watching SmackDown than it is watching Raw. Then they just made it look exactly the same, except they actually make you view the bit of the match that's still going on while you're in commercial break. This doesn't feel like it's adding on to a new storyline. Then it had Erick Rowan kicking off the show, going over, I'm smart, I'm a genius, I tried to nearly kill a man with no benefit to my own, and I try to feel like I'm an independent person, well, yet I'm still following with another person. I really don't know what the fuck my character is. That's literally what Erick Rowan is telling us. He's trying to be his own man, and he continued to ally with other men that might tell him what to do or just do some dumb shit. It was Daniel Bryan coming along, then just having a lengthy match after the guy that he should be having a promo with should be having a one-on-one match. Instead of like, oh, we should have been friends. We could talk about this, bloody, bloody, blah. They just had like a fucking very lack of a match and something that, should be important, like a basic storyline as Erick Rowan assaulting Roman Reigns. What's the backstory on this? This is something to get back on Daniel Bryan of some sort. And this has nothing to do with much Roman Reigns except Erick Rowan's now heel and Daniel Bryan's back to babyface after seeing him wrestle Erick Rowan. And then Luke Harper came to end it by disqualification. I know, off interference. And taking an iron claw that literally got Daniel Bryan's boot stuck on the ropes off a chokeslam, so he had to hit him again. The referee struggling to take his boot off of the goddamn top rope, and then has to chokeslam him again for the 1, 2, 3 off Luke Harper, shockingly interrupting the match. Then Roman Reigns comes out of nowhere and surprised everybody. This match wasn't much except a 2 commercial break opening match for something that should have been a basic 7-minute promo to start off the rest of the show. And you see why I always have issues with SmackDown with all of this. Lack of time management, lack of developing other superstars that are obviously going to wrestle a main event, going to get demoted just like Breezango or any other idiots. If you're going to bring guys to NXT or at least do something with them, minimize promo times. Promo times came from at least a decent 4 to 6 minutes, or at least 7 minutes if it's going to be a big storyline, or to 10, 15 minutes for a promo for an opening show involving Erick Rowan that really doesn't have that much interesting to talk about other than that little ugly ass doppelganger that he had a month ago. This was completely pointless. And all for Daniel Bryan to be like, don't you want us to see us kick their ass? Yeah. Well, maybe that'll happen next week. What? That's literally what the fuck they're telling me. That's how to build up your top stars actually having a wrestling match, so fuck you last time on USA. Next up was a sit-down interview involving the WWE Champion Kofi Kingston. And as much as Kofi Kingston is a WWE Champion, Nakamura, Sami Zayn, Roman Reigns, Daniel Bryan, Erick Rowan has more screen time than Kofi Kingston for his last 5 months as being WWE Champion. And all he has is a premiere interview facing off against just a sit-down interview with Michael Cole, I think, for his up-and-coming title defense against Brock Lesnar come the first airing of Fox SmackDown. That, mind you, should be a big deal. We have never seen Kofi Kingston defend the WWE title against somebody of Brock Lesnar. But over this entire thing, he's still not changing his character. He never feels like I should be a way different Kofi Kingston. Thinks Brock Lesnar's at a different level than Kevin Owens, Dolph Ziggler, Randy Orton. You know, the guy that beaten Randy to a bloody fucking pulp like 3 years ago at a SummerSlam. Seriously, what's wrong with Kofi? And yet he's still taking himself in this interview like he's the fucking underdog. When at least Dean Ambrose, we know he was a bit of an underdog. He was a bit weird. He was a fan favorite. He knows when he won the world title. As much of his title reign has been irrelevant, he treated himself like he was king of the mountain. He was a legit premier threat, and he always like shown that he's the number one guy. Kofi Kingston never treats himself like he's the number one guy. He just holds it like he's Intercontinental Champion. Why in the fuck are you holding your major belt like a major belt? Like a minor belt? What the fuck is wrong with you, Kofi? If Brock wins the world title, I think this would be a weak point in the business, but I think it would be even worse if Kofi Kingston holds it again. That doesn't legitimize Brock Lesnar, even though we know he's still going to be like a mainstay in the company for the next year or two, and we know that Kofi Kingston has not developed much of a feat, or at least in a character shift. I see what WWE is trying to do, but win or lose, something has to change character-wise, then match-wise or belt-wise, because it doesn't evolve anybody unless a different character changes. Then we had Chad Gable come from winning via DQ against Baron Corbin into having an immediate squash match, ending with a leverage, I think, German suplex, coming around beating the shit out of Mike Kanellis, and then ending him with the ankle lock. They also made, like, I remember that segment with the Street Profits, and then kept saying baby daddy and shit like that. I still can't get over whatever the fuck Dawkins said about he's wanting a good stink face. Pause, by the way. Whatever the fuck that was. Hopefully I didn't say that in my Clash of Champions review. By God, if I have to hear that again in just a sudden jab to just Mike Kanellis sucking at life, that just takes the cake. We had Shinsuke Nakamura face off against Ali. The man who pinned him in the go-home show of SummerSlam and was supposed to be, assumably, a number one contender for the Intercontinental Championship, didn't even get a shot. The same dude that was supposed to be the top guy to face off against Daniel Bryan for the WWE Championship gets fucked over by injury. It's been a sucky year for Ali, and you see why. And then a really close match. He comes with a run-up German suplex from the bottom rope, a surprise super kick over a Kinshasa, and Nakamura won off interference yet again by Sami Zayn and hit him with a Kinshasa to the back of the head and another one to the front of the face. It was a good match. I'm not gonna lie, it was a really good match. But other than that, I felt like this just devalues Ali even more because he had lost in the tournament. He lost against Nakamura twice already. And it's just lowering his stock. And this same guy who's supposed to be, even if he did was to push, he wouldn't have gone anywhere because, of course, nobody cares about Ali, even knows about those fucking retarded ass promos that he does, like in the middle of SmackDown airing. So, either way, no one cares. And then we had the tag team titles. I mean, the tag team champions, the New Day, facing off against the B team. And then they just win with the Midnight Hour in a relevant match that no one cares about. And the funniest part was when they were doing their little B train thing. Biggie was lacking along until he pushed him Bo Dallas around, and then they ended with I think, Midnight Hour. It was a pretty match. It was supposed to be a bit entertaining, but we needed more backstage segments. We need something not involving like a major faction or at least a major character. Minor characters. That's what makes your shows fun. That's what made the New Day fun. And now you got your world champion being one half of the New Day. It devalues the New Day of being what they surely was, a good baby heel act that pretends that they're acting babyface, completely charismatic, and the best part of watching Raw and SmackDown. that if I was reviewing SmackDown 2015 and 16, I would be loved to be talking positive about the New Day. Now this year, I have nothing but negatives to talk about the New Day. They get no promo time sometimes. They barely have much of the charisma or characteristics other than we know Xavier Woods is a nerd, cross-dressing freak, cosplay fag that plays video games, and Biggie Langston likes touching on his titties and can't even do a tope suicide to save his life. And Kofi Kingston is so bad of a WWE champion. I'd rather give Crash Holly the WWF title back in 2001. I don't give a fuck what I just said. That's how I feel about the New Day right now. Oh god, then we had the Kabuki Warriors defeat Fire to Desire. Should I? Should I really? Not only do we have a lack of a tag division, these are the only bitches that are only on SmackDown. That's the only tag team matches that from a legit tag division that the women's have. And thanks that they're going back to a draft, and it seems like you're going to be on separate terms other than the wild card rule that they've had for the last several months that had no storylines, no progression for any characters at all, and most of them are just chasing the 24/7 title, or you're an EC3. If you're an EC3, I am so fucking sorry. I really am. Kabuki Warriors won. Please fucking stop. That sounds like a cuss word or something terrible that happened to a village in Japan. Whatever in the fuck this was not a match. It came with heavy. It also had a backstage segment that had Otis of Heavy Machinery coming around while Mandy's just passing magazines, acting completely oblivious that I have a match in a few minutes, so let me just hand these magazines around, even though nobody literally reads magazines anymore. How does that conduct heat? And even if it is, you're in the women's division. Check out like no other women. There's no very attractive women out there. And other than that, it's nice to see that you want to do something. Mandy Rose is a highly attractive woman. She really is. Like I'm gonna fuck her like real bad. No, off topic. It did happen. They lose, including a saying kick, failing to axe kick the magazine. She tried twice. I think she ended it up with an elbow. Asuka was barely in the match, shockingly. So that was a really shitty match, especially off a woman of Kairi Sane, Asuka, Mandy Rose, and Sonya Deville's caliber. Even though I feel like Sonya Deville is the weakest wrestler, thinks I feel like she's just a fake, stiff MMA fighter that can barely pull off a simple wrestling move. Mandy Rose is a good wrestler, and Asuka and Kairi Sane are on their own league. But by God, this match was highly disappointing. I feel like they tried to do too much in an interesting match, and how Kairi Sane thinks that she can just shout English makes her a compelling babyface. I wouldn't mind if they behaved like Io Shirai right now, and she's heel. Next up, there was a confrontation. Next up was, I think, the final match. There was Bayley and Sasha Banks facing off against Carmela and Charlotte with a backstage segment involving Carmela. I mean, R-Truth still calling like the U24/7 title something European title. It's funny, and it's funny enough how this match didn't catch anybody's attention because this was boring. It ended up with Sasha Banks just beating the shit out of Becky Lynch backstage, and no one cared about the match. Thanks, we know they're just gonna blow it off next week, and Hell in a Cell is literally next week, so there's no point. So that was their match. The SmackDown will be on Fox next week. The final segment of the show was Kevin Owens addressing that their Hell in a Cell pay-per-view match for Kevin Owens to be paid $1 million and embarrass Shane McMahon. The briefcase will be on the ladder, and if Kevin Owens wins, he keeps his job and he keeps the money. Because I think they still have to find in place for the storyline for Shane McMahon to still be a deviant heel in this situation. So SmackDown gets a fucking 4 out of 10. This show sucked. As much as it was entertaining, there was a really good match uh, involving Ali, and I didn't mind some of the segments with R-Truth, and there was a really good moment with the New Day. Kofi Kingston's lack of interest is really very not that interesting, and he's not selling maybe the biggest match of his life against somebody of Brock Lesnar's caliber. The women's division sucks. The women's tag division suck. I feel like we're undervaluing most of our young stars. Mike Kanellis is literally getting buried right in front of our eyes. Or Mike Bennett, if you guys are still indie fans. And Sasha Banks, Bayley, Carmela, and Charlotte suck ass. That's my summary. It's a really vague summary, but I really did not like this episode of SmackDown. I felt like Raw won this one. If we're technically still caring about a brand split thing, it really doesn't matter at this point because both shows are mediocre. They're not doing much to expand the product worldwide. And coming in a few months, there's going to be a lot more competition elsewhere for you people to actually view wrestling in cable television, or at least more major platforms like the internet, so you can actually watch New Japan, Ring of Honor, Impact Wrestling, AEW, NWA. That's going to have like higher platforms to be watched. Thanks Billy Corgan for actually putting your money to something worth watching. So fuck SmackDown on USA. That's nothing but an asshole thing to do to even make it live. There was no necessary reason. What's wrong with it being pre-taped? There's been no negative complaints on it, even though its attendance is still piss poor. Your stage sucks. Your your camera angles always sucked. You have terrible ways of still making SmackDown still feel like it's recapping Raw events, especially while you're implementing a Raw fucking like it's Raw recap again, or Raw rewind that used to be on SmackDown back in the day. You got rid of something as interesting and good for promos for up and coming talent like Talking Smack. You cucks are such pieces of shit. I hope Fox makes sure that this USA Network era of WWE is burnt to a fucking crisp. Thank you for watching this review, and hopefully you guys subscribe so you can watch more of my videos, more of my takes on pro wrestling, sports, entertainment in general. Hopefully you like this review.